our producer will be thrilled. He loves a curb shot. Almost as much as I love a grid. Here we have Thomas Wilkins. He will go off pole position with Sebastian Pereira alongside Maximus Shields and Reese Knight on the second row. Harrison Johns and Christian Oblag completing your 6 junior pro kart runners. They'll be making their way round. They'll come into shot about now behind the vans, awnings and tents down there at Surtees. So they're going to make their way through. It's of course a standing start for our junior pro kart class. Then we'll have our Honda cadets after that before we head towards a lunch break, which I will just have a quick look. We are running a little bit behind schedule, but not massively, so I'm just going to have a quick look. We were due to break for lunch at around about midday, which we're at now, so we're running around about 20 minutes behind schedule, but the lunch break was going to be around about an hour, but I do expect that will be brought down ever so slightly to around about 40 minutes. We'll be back at 1 o'clock for the third round of heats for Junior Max. And then we'll be running through all of them. Green flag is in the air then as everybody is gridded up into position. Green is up. Green is down. We're away and racing. It's a good start from Pereira from the outside of the front row, but not enough that he can get alongside our pole sitter, which is Wilkins. As they go off the grid, the driver from the right there is the pole sitter, which puts them on slightly on the outside, but they are slightly further forward, gives them the run as there. Now we see Shields making an early dive down the inside of Sebastian Pereira, although doesn't run Pereira all the way to the outside of the track, slots back in, and then now asks Pereira just to sort of aid the push along, trying to catch up onto the back of Thomas Wilkins. If he can get through on the early phase of the lap, they'll be really, really pleased with that one, because Shields, at least, his nearest championship challenger is Christian Oblag in the 76, the red kart in the background, with the new Nauseo panel on for him, going with the new Mark 20 Nauseo with the aero hole in the front, similar to the one that Sebastian Pereira is running his. So they are two slightly different designs. Down the inside, though, goes Shields. He's got that flat Nauseo panel in the front of his, and he is through into the lead, with Wilkins still into second place. So Pereira couldn't take advantage and get through at the same time into the complex of corners down there into that left gap. Not enough for Sebastian Pereira to get through. Now he might get a better run down the back straight on Thomas Wilkins, right in the slipstream, has a look over the shoulder and then ducks out, but then ducks back in. So no changes of position down that back straight towards Raymond's at the second lap. Shields has opened the gap up to 3/10 with Wilkins now in second place. Pereira third, holding on with a decent gap back as we have a short interlude to watch a large plane coming into land at Cardiff Airport. Pereira in third. Oblag, though, not able to find a way past Reese Knight at the moment, which is going to be a troubling for Oblang as he sees Max Shields, the leader in this championship, out at the front. They started the day with a gap of 27 points in the opening heat. Now, it's only single point between the top three in terms of points position. There is Oblag down the inside then of Reese Knight for fourth place. And the leaders in terms of points, if you win a heat, you get 35, then it's 34, then 33, but then there's a 2-point gap before the rest of the points are handed out, where it's 30, then it's 29, and then it goes down sequentially in numbers down to 1 point from all of our heats. So what sort of happens there, it means that if Oblag can't get back into the top three, Shields is going to take a bigger points haul out of him, and with two heat wins for Shields, that's going to mean almost certainly a pole position for the final, unless he has a treacherous heat number 3. So we'll see whether Oblag can close up. Has certainly had the pace in the opening race of the day to sort of stick with Shields and match him, as they ran very, very closely. Sets a personal best, as does Wilkins and Pereira, but Oblag's personal best is just under 2/10 quicker than everybody else's. We catch Reese Knight there bouncing over the curbs. Now Pereira has found a way past Wilkins. Wilkins, though, will try to get back to the inside. Pereira defends by cutting across the track to clip the curb on the inside before sweeping back out on the outside on Chandler's. Behind them, though, Christian Oblag is closing in lap on lap. Still have over 6 minutes. Be down to around about 6 as they head down that back straight. So Pereira goes defensive. Maybe he knows that Wilkins has got a lot of straight line speed, bearing in mind he hasn't been able to get through down at that end of the track for the early part of the race at the very least. Or they did dip out of the slipstream every now and again, but not enough to put Wilkins under any sort of pressure. Oblag behind though, now closing up another 7/10 on that previous lap. As Shields in front opens up even more of a gap, out to beyond 2 seconds to Pereira. You'll see Shields come through the screen now, and then it's a 3-car battle as Wilkins gets a good run out of McWhirter, but not enough to get alongside fully on Sebastian Pereira. He was there or thereabouts, but Pereira had more drive in the second phase of the engine power and just pulled away from Wilkins. Leader over down the back straight, look over the shoulder. The 3 behind though, nose to tail, and Christian Oblag is close enough this time to try and move down the inside of Tom Wilkins. Wilkins is going to get the cut back and may well have track position, but has to slot back in as the track sweeps to the left, then the right, and Christian Oblag is up into 3rd place. More importantly, limits the damage to Max Shields now, because it'll only be a 2-point swing rather than what would have been a 4-point swing if he'd have been in 4th place. So Oblag doing what he needs to do, and will have enough here in terms of time to put Sebastian Pereira under some pressure as they head towards the second phase of this race. 4 minutes remaining, so we are well in terms of time to be give Oblang enough time as he bounces over things and then makes a late move down the inside of Pereira. That one was optimistic at best and will likely ruin his exit at worst. Doesn't seem to have done too much though, as Pereira is still within touching distance with Oblang in this second part of the race. It's taken a while for Christian Oblag the pace to come, but now he's through down the inside of Pereira and runs Pereira slightly wide around Surtees. Gets the job done though and is up into 2nd place. So looks like the kart was just set up for the second part. It's a long race, certainly when we come to the final as well, with these 15 minutes plus 1 lap for the final. It's 10 minutes plus 1 for each of the heats. So certainly going to be a lot of thought goes into this, because you don't want to be setting tyre pressures too low or too high, just to sort of go for the early phase of the race and then ruin the second phase, or vice versa. There's a lot going on, not only for our drivers but for the mechanics as well. With 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Shields is through with a gap that is almost 3 seconds now. It's been taking roughly a 1/10 and a half every single lap out of the field behind. Oblang now though is through on Sebastian Pereira, so should have enough to pull away. The gap was closing up and now he's moved away to the gap of around about 2/10, but Pereira now he's got a target behind him being dragged along. The issue that he's got being in the middle is that if he goes to overtake and then doesn't do overly well on that one, then he's going to lose a place back to Thomas Wilkins. Thank you for everybody that is sticking with us on the live stream. We are having still a few internet connections, which is causing 1 or 2 lagging issues when it comes to viewing. Hopefully you can still hear everything that's going on. Maybe the picture might not be there with it, but I'll try my best to paint a picture of what is going on throughout all of the races here today at Llandow. At the moment, it's Max Shields leading the way by 2.9 seconds from a fairly intense battle between Christian Oblag, Sebastian Pereira and Thomas Wilkins, although Pereira sets a personal best and moves away ever so slightly from Wilkins, who's in a very, very comfortable 4th place, with Reese Knight and Harrison Johns a little further back. Let's see whether Pereira has enough in the final few laps here to do anything about Christian Oblag. Oblag has been trying to get through on trying to move away from Sebastian Pereira, since Pereira had to succumb and allow him through into second place. Hasn't managed to shake him off too much though. Has a couple of cart lengths, which is enough that he doesn't have to defend too tightly into a lot of the corners, but means that he does sort of have to keep one eye over his shoulder on those carts behind him. Through the Dell chicane they come then onto the back straight. 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining, so Shields is certainly going to get another 2 laps in here, I think. On this one. Gap has been fairly consistent now at 2.9 for most of this second half of the race. Shields was a tenth or two quicker on that previous lap. That does open the gap up to outside 3 seconds, but that could be because Oblang is coming under more pressure now from Sebastian Pereira. Into the right-hander at Chandler's. Pereira noticeably closer than what he has been on the last 2 or 3 laps. No overtaking move into here, but it's this corner that matters. The right-hander down at Diggers. Got to get it right down the back straight to see whether you're close enough to pull out. Pereira thinks about it. The time at the top of the screen says 6 seconds. It goes out ever so slightly as they go over, but nonetheless, it's going to be the penultimate lap, I think, as they come round. So 1.5 laps remaining then for Max Shields. The gap still showing at just over 3/10, but that's because the timing hasn't updated down at the finally does. It's out by another 1/10 of a second between Max Shields and Christian Oblang. Oblang holding off Sebastian Pereira. Into the right-hander with Wilkins now a little further back, dropped away to the tune of about 1.6, so not able to go with Oblang and Pereira. There you see him flashing through the screen. Down the back straight they come then, and Pereira once again ducks out of the slipstream, then ducks back in. It's sort of a half move from Sebastian Pereira, and that one even needs to be done a little bit earlier. The checkered flag is out, even though the timing hadn't elapsed and he was showing his last lap. I think Reece Knight and Harrison Johns completing your running here at Llandow.